Zidane Danny, Electro Ninja here, and welcome back to Nerd Chat here on Electro Ninja's Lab. I am actually here today, as is Captain Jack. Say hello.
Greetings.
So, it's the spooky season, and tomorrow for us, today for you guys, is Halloween. So, we thought we would do a little special, basically, watching two amazing, uh, Halloweeny shows. Um, you,
Horror show, right? Thrillers.
thrillers. Yeah, I wouldn't say. I would debate whether or not Promise Neverland is actually fully horror. Um,
Yeah.
and the same goes for Haunting of Bly Manor, which those are the two shows that we're going to be watching, and we're basically just going to talk over them for the most part. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this, and we'll basically just be doing a normal nerd chat, but we'll also be watching Haunting of Bly Manor first, and then we'll watch Promise Neverland afterwards. So let's get started. So you got it open?
Yep. Three, two, one, go.
All right. So yeah, this honestly this
I
show's
haven't watched
great.
this. I haven't watched this in a while, so since it came out.
Yeah,
So
same. Um, like I saw it on the I just saw it randomly while I was going through Netflix one time, and I saw it. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's really interesting.
the opening is truly interesting too, where the eyes disappear.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's really cool, and I honestly just love like every little detail of it. Um, ob- uh, Obviously, we probably shouldn't spoil anything that's going to be happening throughout the show because we're just going to be watching
True.
the first episode. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, so much of just everything that happens is just absolutely great, and also the fact that the main character is gay and both her and her love interest survive. That's
True.
that's funny.
True.
I think yeah, I don't. I think some other people survive, but I'm not. But that's not important. Um,
Right.
so besides this, though, what's some of your what would you say is some of your favorite shows that or movies with uh that are horror themed?
Eli.
Eli.
Eli is one of my favorite horror movies.
Okay, I haven't heard that one before.
It's on Netflix, and it basically you start out thinking, "Oh, this is gonna just have every horror trope ever." It's pretty basic, and then it takes a sharp left turn.
Interesting. Um, that yeah, I'm not usually a big horror fan. Um, Mostly because I just consider them to be pretty boring. But I have like a few things that are horror adjacent that I really enjoy. Like obviously, Nightmare Before Christmas. Um, I love Coraline. I know you aren't too fond of that, right?
Coraline freaks me out pretty good, yeah.
Um, Freaking. Oh my gosh. The original Dark Crystal movie freaked me out as a kid.
Yes, that's fair.
like it, like seriously, go if you're a kid, probably don't watch it. But as an adult, if you watched it as a kid, go back and watch it. It's not as terrifying now, but as a kid, like oh my gosh, that thing is terrifying, and that's meant for kids, which is just like what? I can't believe that was actually marketed as for kids and stuff.
Yeah, well, the 80s and 90s were a different time.
That's true. That is very true. Um, but it's honestly a really well made movie, and I wish that the show continued after the first season. Like, why did they end it? That makes no sense. I don't know. So,
Yeah.
also, we've talked about this offhand, but there was a recent, well, this was back in July or maybe even June. It was sometime during the summer. They released a sequel book to Nightmare Before Christmas, which is
Oh yeah,
Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. You haven't read it yet, correct?
correct.
So I'm not gonna spoil anything, but it's really freaking good. I think it takes some time to really feel like a Nightmare Before Christmas book, as a lot of the early stuff is mostly dealing with Sally kind of grappling with the fact that she's now the Pumpkin Queen, and not really certain what to do with that information. Which, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. It's a weird, it's different.
Yeah.
Ghost stories are worse when there's a kid.
But honestly, I love the entire. I love the book. Basically, the main bad guy is the Sandman, and he comes from a new town called Dreamtown, and basically the whole book is Sally going through the doors to see all of the different holiday towns, and then eventually going to a new town called Dreamtown, and it's great. I love the whole thing. And there's also a moment where the moment where she finally understands who she's meant to be is after she meets frickin' Queen Elizabeth,
Of course it is.
which is so sad thinking about it now, because like she literally just died. And people are probably picking up the book now because of Halloween, so they're reading it and then they're like, "Oh, this is uncomfortable now." But obviously this was written and released before she actually died, so
Right.
that's fine. But it's still like, what the fuck? Because yeah, people are gonna be reading it now because it's Halloween. So
in his old family home in
I don't know.
Essex. A great good place.
True.
Alone in the country.
Is there any books that you really like to read around Halloween?
Not so much.
Yeah.
Although I did just finish one that's really, really interesting called The Institute by Stephen King.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't really read.
Really good.
I haven't read pretty much anything by Stephen King.
You're a teacher.
Yes.
Moon did when we were together. So that was insane. They borrowed it from my parents and read it, and I'm like,
6 months.
6 months.
okay.
Each time you've
Well,
It was
I've
that
fallen
was
quite
very
in
interesting,
London.
to say the least. But yeah, maybe that should have been a hint as to the kind
Oh
of
my
person
gosh.
we were.
No, thank you.
Um,
Haven't quite mastered tea.
but yeah,
I'm used to it coming in.
honestly, hindsight is
full
2020.
ice cubes,
Let's move on.
Eh.
lemon wedges.
Well,
Well,
maybe
whole different
maybe not
thing here.
2020, but definitely
yes.
better
It
than
is.
normal.
You no previous experience
But,
as a
yeah,
no
I don't
crowd.
But I have a
I've quite
few
a bit of experience
really
with
good
children,
books that
Mr. Wingfield.
I could absolutely suggest, like a whole bunch, specifically manga, for people who are actually really into horror and stuff like that.
My niece and my nephew.
Pretty much anything by Junji Ito, you will. They're all really good horror.
Miles, my
Um,
nephew, is
I
my
haven't read
age
very
range
many of
so
them,
early.
but so many people love them. I've like glanced through a few of them, and it's like, this is really good horror. Like, I would never actually sit down and read the books because they're freaking terrifying, and I'm more of a
Mhm.
horror adjacent rather than actual horror.
The same with Flora.
But
my niece.
it's still
You tutor
like,
her as
he did a really good job, and I think he's still making them. So it's just like, wow.
in Bly.
But also another thing about Junji Ito compared to other series is that he doesn't write series; he writes
Spend summers
books.
and holidays.
And
Mm.
so every single one of those manga, it is a complete story as soon as you're able to get it, because it's and they're not, and he's not going to write more to the story, which I think is a really, really well done thing, especially because of the fact that like other series, especially horror series, can end up really flopping after a little while.
I understand.
True.
And they have to change. They can't just constantly be horror throughout the entire thing, or else it's gonna just get boring. So they often change things. Like Promised Neverland, I would say the first major half is pretty much all horror. The other books have like horror themes, but they're not specifically horror. They're more Shonen Jump, standard Shonen Jump stuff. It's fantastic. It's great, but just due to the way that that you have to write stories, you can't stay on that level throughout the entire thing, or else it's gonna get boring.
Seems odd to me too.
So basically, it's more of how do you deal with the fact that these things exist, and you just have to live with it and keep going on. That's basically what it is. And many of the horror themes basically just sit by the sidelines for the rest of the book. Like every now and again, you get these big bad demons that are huge and monstrous and stuff, but for the most part, it's just
So I suppose you're right.
it's there. It's not a huge deal.
What is the catch?
Obviously, the
That really is the question.
anime dived off a cliff after in the second season, which don't watch the second season. Anyone who is actually interested in Promised Neverland, stop at season 1, then read the manga. Because yeah, season 2 is garbage. No one likes it. Pretty much everyone has agreed that it doesn't exist anymore.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Especially since it changed practically everything. In the original manga, it takes them multiple years in order to get to the point where they're actually able to save all of the children. Meanwhile, in the show, they do it like within a few
I think
months.
we should toast to it, Mr. Wingrave.
Mm.
And it's just like, what are you thinking? I don't
Or
know.
do you prefer it in your tea?
And they also reveal that a certain someone is still alive really quickly, which
Right.
is a big problem.
I'm honestly
Like,
so
the
curious.
audience knows that he's alive pretty early on, but the characters still think that he's dead for like the longest time,
No, come on.
which I think that was a good way to do it.
Imagination.
It's whatever.
No one
But they still kept him away from the whole
Come
thing.
on. No one.
Obviously, we'll Promised Neverland. You'll see that after we finish Bly Manor.
promising
but,
young woman.
yeah.
The children liked her. And then she
And then as for other
suppose she
horror-themed manga,
It's her own
Zom 100 is fantastic.
blunt her.
I think I've mentioned it to you, maybe once or twice, but it's not really horror. It's just horror adjacent again, which most of my books are. But basically, a zombie apocalypse happens, and the main character basically rejoices because he's finally out of his shitty job. And I made a point when I made my review of it to basically say the whole point of this series is to get people out of really bad jobs, especially because Japan is awful when it comes to workplace environments and stuff. And their whole the whole point of it is that we need to change these things because it feels like people feel like they are actually they are more of a zombie in their real lives than if an actual zombie apocalypse were to happen. And I love it.
Huh.
I love it. It's fantastic. It is mature for people who are underage. I don't think that too many people are probably going to be watching this one because it's a Halloween special.
But there's just too many of them.
But that are underage. But even still, if you are underage, don't read it. There is some nudity in it, and it is very graphic with violence and stuff. So if you're not okay with that stuff, don't read it. It is a zombie thing, and they go all in.
I could make a
So
difference.
just be aware of
A
that.
real difference.
But
with just two.
and then Obviously, you can't mention
Notice the position.
Halloween without mentioning the
Live in.
granddaddy of all
They've lost some.
horror-esque manga, Soul Eater. Pretty much everyone has agreed that Soul Eater is fantastic. It's
I know what loss is.
it's practically one of the big three of horror manga / anime.
Is it horror? I don't know.
It's not horror, it's horror adjacent, I'd say as well. But pretty
Yeah.
much everything when it comes to anime is more horror adjacent than actual horror. Like Junji Ito is the only one that actually does horror.
Quite a while, actually.
And his stuff does not get made into animes for obvious reasons. Because yeah, those things are like, if you want to actually read horror manga, I suggest Junji Ito.
I'm not.
It will probably fuck you up though.
From anything. Hurts me. It hurts me when you say that.
But yeah.
You know it hurts me when you say that.
But yeah, Soul Eater. Pretty much everyone knows about it to a certain degree. It's way more raunchier in the manga, from what I've seen, than it is in the anime. So, if you don't want raunch, then probably go with the anime, which is really saying something considering the fact that the first episode is literally a woman. There's a moment where a woman is taking a bath and the main character.
Because she causes nosebleeds.
Yeah, pretty much. But she is like, in I think the intro they make it a deal that she's more involved than she is. But I think like in the actual manga, they she's actually there like constantly. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But in the anime, she's hardly ever there. She's like there in like maybe 1 out of every 10 episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good. It's not perfect.
Sorry about that.
Obviously, if you there is Song of Spider. So what? That's more of just if you are you like spider stuff, but that's about it.
Oh, no.
Oh, I gotta mention Sir Vamp.
Well,
So,
hostels aren't terribly restful.
I'm really sad that Sir Vamp didn't get a second season. Or maybe it did. The point is, it hasn't continued in the anime department for a while now. But it was so good. Basically, what it is the main character finds this black cat just randomly in the as he's walking through town, and turns out that the cat is actually a vampire.
Why'd you come back?
And they link, and basically their souls become linked, and yeah, they basically fight evil together, and it's great. It's basically there's this family of vampires that they serve humans, and they work together to face off against huge, big bad evils all over the world, or all over Japan, I should say. I don't think they're anywhere else.
Like I said,
But
Nice.
yeah, it's pretty fun. It's not a perfect series, but I don't think it needs to be. And that's pretty much the biggest horror things that I can think of. Like obviously there's Demon Slayer,
True.
which has had like a huge popularity, and the manga recently ended. I think it wasn't too long ago, and the anime I think is nearing its completion, but I don't know exactly how far that's gonna be. Because basically what they did for some reason is with the anime they redid an arc. They did an arc in the movie, and then they redid that in the actual anime. I think it's mostly for people who didn't go to watch the movie, which fair, that makes sense. But yeah, I also think that it was a really well done thing with them, because unlike most anime movies, this was actually in a always canon part of the actual series. The arc the series actually went into the train arc, which was the movie. They went through the entire the movie went through that entire arc, and then it continues right from there in the anime. I think the anime does actually redo that entire arc, adding a few things here and there because it's a series, not a movie, obviously. But yeah, I think it's great.
Hi, Miles. So pleased to meet you, my lady. Oh,
So.
well, what a gentleman.
Yeah.
And this must be Mrs. Gross.
Yeah.
Hi.
So, are there any movies or shows that you wanted to describe to the audience?
I see you made it in one piece.
Well,
Is the journey okay?
I really like Eli.
Yeah.
Yes, that
And
young man. Good sort.
It's really interesting.
Right, well,
In the sense of like,
inside. I'm sure Miss Clayton is.
it's going to, it really does. You watch it and you're like, all right. The first thing you see is a kid in the bubble because he's like allergic to the world or something.
First look at lie, you'll
Okay.
have no discomfort.
And you're like, okay, this is going to be a medical horror. Got it.
Described.
And they're like, the whole premise is they're going to take him to a hospital where he can get special treatment. And it's really like, okay, you start out like, okay, I can get behind that, whatever, cool. And no, like, they get to the hospital and the kid is like realizing something's fishy. And yeah, it's just, without spoiling anything, it's hard because he goes into this one part of the hospital, and the hospital also has nuns, which is another, classic trope.
Hi, Flora.
And ghosts and nuns and all kinds of stuff. And then he ends up finding this one room that tells him all the secrets of the hospital, and he realizes what's actually been going on, and he has to figure out how to escape, and then he has to figure out how to get away from his parents because his parents ended up being part of the bad guys. And
Fun. Honestly,
Yeah.
like when you first started talking about it, I was like, wait, is this Bubble Boy? But no, no, it was not apparently.
Nope.
Oh my gosh. So that sounds very interesting then. I'll have to watch it for sure.
Miss Clay's at the moment.
There were some recent. There's been some recent Netflix shows that have been really good on the horror-esque
Let's get Miss Clayton's
stuff.
Yeah.
Did you watch Shadow and Bone?
No.
Okay, that was really good. I also read the book. The first book, obviously. It's actually a series, but it's pretty dang good, and surprisingly, it's pretty accurate to the book. A lot of things, basically, they added a little bit extra stuff, which I'm assuming that more than likely some of that stuff is actually going to be revealed later on in the series. That basically these guys were behind the whole. They were basically acting from the sidelines the whole time. But it's interesting to say the least. They basically just added a few characters to make things a bit more fun.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's Shadow and Bone is great. I love it. And I can't wait for the next season. And I think it's also a really
Thank you.
I can't wait to see exactly how they're going to continue it because I haven't even read the second book yet. I'm planning to at some point, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But yeah.
I hope it's all right.
Of course,
I haven't quite
literally anything Tim Burton does is
It's fine, dear.
practically it's not horror exactly, but it's horror adjacent.
Wow.
Some things are horror, of course. Like Edward Scissorhands is that's horror adjacent. Miss Peregrine, that was horror adjacent, and the series is fucking amazing. You haven't read any of the books, correct? For Miss Peregrine's,
I have read Miss Peregrine's.
you've read the first book.
Yeah.
But you haven't read any of the other ones?
Right.
No.
Okay. So I'm currently on the third book. And it's really interesting. So obviously, there's between the there's obviously differences between the book and the movie. And everyone knows that. I think it was still a perfect adaptation. I think it was really well made. Obviously there's differences, but that's gonna happen when it comes to movies. Like, they swapped Emma and Claire. Also, a lot of kids' ages got swapped or changed or whatever. So like, Fiona and Hugh, like, they're some of the oldest characters.
Wait, what?
In the book, they're like two of the oldest.
Yeah.
And they're a couple. Like, straight up, they are 100% a couple. They are like, there's actually a moment in the first book where they are making out, and they have, and Emma basically promises that they're not, that she and, what's his name, are not gonna actually reveal, are not gonna tell Miss Peregrine that they were making out.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it's just like, what the frell? This is hilarious. Obviously, Claire is way younger. As is, no, actually, I think that's it.
What?
And obviously, she's the one who has floating, while Emma has fire.
Yes, you're.
So, that was interesting.
Where did you get
I think Enoch is way younger.
What?
the butterfly?
Like, in his appearance. Obviously, he's older. He's like one of the oldest in age, I think, but one of the youngest. He's not one of the youngest. He's about the middle in terms of appearance age. Bronwyn is actually one of the oldest, which that's insane considering the fact that she's like actually the youngest in the book
For you.
or in the show. I mean, in the movie. I mean,
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
I also think that it was. I think in the movie. In the movie, it was one picture for Bronwyn and Victor, but in the book, it's two different pictures, and he just decided that they were going to be the same. They were going to have the same powers, and they were going to be related. So that was fun. And then obviously, yeah, there's a few other things. The second book is amazing. They go to a whole bunch of other, well, not a whole bunch of other, but a few other loops.
Have you?
And one of the big ones is, I think it's also the first one that they go to, is a menagerie, where basically there are peculiar animals.
Aren't you?
And one of the main characters that joins them in the third book is a frickin' dog that has a pipe in his mouth.
That's cute.
Yeah, it's great. You need to absolutely read it at some point, because I love.
Very kind of you.
He's at this point probably one of my favorite characters. And also, frickin' why can't I remember his name?
You know.
Who's the
Mrs.
main
Rose
character?
seems to
What's
think
his
you should
name?
call me Miss Clayton.
Didn't you like it?
I'm sorry?
Is it Jack?
The butterfly.
Oh, I
No, I don't think that's right. I should Google this.
was a little upset, I think.
Upset. Whether she admits it or not. She says so loudly. And so,
Okay. Jacob, that's his name. Yeah, Jacob is he has way more powers than you think. In the so in the movie, they basically make it out like the only thing that he has is that he can see the monsters.
silly. You're
In the
just a dolly.
Touche.
in the book, though, he's actually able to completely sense them. He doesn't even have to see them to know that they're next to him. He can basically determine exactly how far they are without even looking at them. It's basically this feeling in his stomach, where it feels feels like a stomach ache at first, is what he describes it as. And it gets stronger the closer that the Hologas is next to
Put
him.
her back.
And the further away, it's not as bad. In the third book, though, it's revealed that he also has the power to control them.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I haven't seen too much from it, so I don't expect it to be like I expect it to probably be more involved as they continue, and onward into the 4th, 5th, and 6th books is probably when it's gonna be way more important. But
But you
yeah.
have to promise me something.
But obviously he's their guide when they're dealing with Hologas that are chasing after them, and it's really interesting.
Don't leave your room at night.
The Baron is like nothing. He's not even a character in the in the books, which I think that's interesting. It's more of Miss Peregrine's brother who's the main bad guy, it seems.
Okay.
And he's basically the founder of the Whites instead of the Baron. So that's fun. And there are some other characters, obviously.
It was as Flora had said.
But it's great. I absolutely do recommend to anyone who's
Though the house
who,
itself had
if you
been
liked the
deeply,
original
the
movie
swords appeared,
of Miss Peregrine,
expanded as
absolutely
it held its
read the
breath for
books.
morning.
They're just insane. And I really hope that the writer continues to write them, because I
sense of
don't
expansion
know
was
if it's
only
done. Like I said,
Gazing out, she found the
I've
terrace,
only
the
gotten through I think
place,
the 3rd book at this
the lawn and
point.
the garden beyond it,
So
and all she could see of the park.
well, I'm
Empty,
not even through it. I'm
great
just
emptiness.
partially through it.
An emptiness
Where
that
am I
called
actually?
out to be explored.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm not even through the first chapter. So. Needless to say, very interesting series. Absolutely do recommend it. If you like horror, this is horror adjacent, so you'll probably enjoy it. Did you ever see Warrior Nun?
No.
Okay, so I would not say that that's horror adjacent. There are certain horror themes in it, but it's not really. Basically, all it is it's about a girl who gets an angel's halo stuck in her back, and she has basically she dies. The halo gets implanted in her back, and then she has to fight off a whole bunch of demons and stuff. She basically becomes the warrior nun, and has to go around facing off against demons and devils and all sorts of crazy things. And obviously she doesn't want to do that because she was just a regular girl beforehand. So yeah, I think it's good. I'm not gonna go too much more in depth with it, but we've been waiting for a second season for since it came out, and it just never happened. We assume that it probably was canceled, but we're not sure.
Gotcha.
Um,
This show is doing a really good job of just making you feel like she's a little bit paranoid.
oh yeah, Haunting of Bly Manor. It's great. But yeah, we've been watching that throughout this entire thing. I don't know how much
Well,
the audience.
I have.
I've been watching it. I just haven't been as paying attention to it. But this.
Yeah, I'm also playing Stardew Valley.
That's funny. I mean, at this point, it's pretty much revealed that there is actually creatures in here.
Yeah.
So she's not completely paranoid, but at the same time, she is definitely paranoid. But yeah, they did a lot of really good things with this.
Come see what I found. You left your room last night, even though you
Missed you
promised
wouldn't.
you wouldn't.
Miss Clayton! How do you know that?
You've got to stay in your room. Come and see.
Why?
So she doesn't see you.
Who?
I think it's funny. I'm hearing an echo, and I'm sure that the audience is also hearing an echo. I think we might have got just due to different things, yours is just slightly ahead of mine.
Flora, look.
It's whatever.
Miss Clayton.
Like I've been a teacher for 9 years, Miles. That's almost your whole life. In all that time, a lot of kids have tried to scare me in a lot of different ways. You know what I learned? I'm a lot braver than people think. Including me.
I wasn't trying to scare you, Miss Clayton. I knew you wouldn't be frightened.
Did
Of course.
I knew that's why you right away.
Is that something you used to do at school?
Play pranks, tricks.
Tricks. I never quite
What are the tricks?
Your uncle told me a little bit about your problems.
I think it's funny that she's like, I don't scare easily. Meanwhile, she's living in a haunted house.
Isn't that always how it goes, though?
Fair enough. And she was clearly terrified last night. So I don't know.
He misses
I
you
think
both
that's funny.
very much.
This series is great. I think
No, he doesn't.
they really did a good
Of
job
course
of
he does. Sure he gets
making
more
a
than us.
compact making a series that is horror or horror, even horror adjacent, is really tricky. Especially because you can't. It's so much longer. As such, you need to have that sense of dread for a lot longer, and it's really hard to do. But they have been doing pretty good recently, especially Haunting of Bly Manor. I think there was another haunting series. I don't know if that one was as well.
Haunting of House, it wasn't as good.
It wasn't as good? Okay. So, yeah. Like a movie, it makes sense. Like you can do it really well. You do have to resort to jump scares a lot more than you do for a series, but yeah. And then also like you have to be very careful with anything that's horror themed at all. Making it too long can really just be annoying. So doing just one season and getting it all done at that point, I think that's probably the maximum that they could have done, and they did it really well.
Relax. If that's even possible.
So I don't know.
Hello.
That's just my thoughts.
Hello. Hello.
Laura, don't.
So are you planning to do anything fun for Halloween?
Who was it?
Don't know that.
I mean, we're having a Halloween party.
Nice, nice.
Some, prank calls.
It's probably just the wrong number.
Thank you.
You're gonna what you dressing up as?
Thank you.
I'm not sure.
So I so at work yesterday, I started out just by wearing my my ninja sweater, basically what I wear for a lot of my videos. I haven't been wearing it as often lately, mostly because it's really hard to green screen it because it's just it's really close to it's blue, but it's close to it's close enough to green where it has some issues.
See, I'm not so sure.
Mm.
I mean, what do you
But
think?
with that, I would so I've been wearing just normal just plain shirts for the past few times. But with that, so I wore that, and then I would wear my elf ears, my big ones that I've been doing for a lot of videos.
Maybe a repairman or
And
something?
I would wear them during while I was in the break room. And then my the store manager was like, "Go ahead and wear them throughout the, while you're working." And I was like, "Okay." I didn't want to do it at first until because it's obvious it wasn't actually Halloween that day, obviously. As this video is coming out on Halloween, and we're recording it the day after I did this. So I wore them. It was fun. It was just a good little bit of fun. I think I was the only one of us who had any get up going on. And then I asked them, should I add the elf ears to my Christmas get up? Basically, what I do for Christmas is I wear my my blue hat, which you've seen. So I asked, should I add my elf ears to that, and then I'll actually be an elf. And they were like, yes, 100% yes. So that's fun. So I'll be doing that throughout the holidays. I'm debating whether or not I should start that tomorrow, since we basically go immediately from Halloween into Christmas. We do still have Thanksgiving stuff, but for the songs and stuff, we're going to be doing Christmas immediately. Because there just simply aren't enough Christmas songs.
Yeah.
Or, I mean,
that's
Thanksgiving songs, sorry.
fair. Yeah.
From what I know, there are only about 6 to 7 Thanksgiving songs, period. Maybe a few more that are just harder to find, but yeah.
My favorite is in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
Oh my gosh, let me find the words.
Here, do you have the do you know what the song's called?
No.
Okay. How long have we been recording? Wow, we've been recording for about 40 minutes at this point.
Yeah.
This is this, if we also do the Promised Neverland, it's probably going to be one of our last videos.
Here's the words. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. It was a courageous thing to do, but someone was already here. Columbus knew the world was round, so he looked for the east while westward bound, but he didn't find what he thought he found, and someone was already here. The Inuit and the Cherokee, the Aztec and Menominee, the Onondaga and the Cree. Columbus sailed across the sea, but someone was already here. It isn't like it was empty space with Caribs met him face to face. Could anyone discover the place when someone was already here?
No. I didn't.
That's fun.
Yep.
That's very
I
fun.
did find some. I'm sorry. Am I interrupting you?
Yep.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I've seen it.
yeah, I have like a list of Thanksgiving songs, and currently what I have on there is Alice's Restaurant, which
I'm sure.
obviously, who doesn't put that in their Thanksgiving list?
2 years ago now.
Do you know anyone?
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone listen. If you don't listen to Alice's Restaurant during Thanksgiving, then what are you doing with your life?
You're
So, yeah. And then I also have the Thanksgiving song by Ben Rector. And then I have My 4 Songs. And then I have Take Me Home Country Road.
She was a bright young thing.
All right.
Which I think that's fair. But yeah, obviously for my Thanksgiving songs, I've got Walking Around the Turkey Bar, It's the Most Chaotic Time of the Year, Do They Know It's Thanksgiving, and Have Yourself a Bittersweet Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Which I think you partially helped me out with pretty much. I don't know if all of them, but definitely most of them.
Yep.
That was fun. It was fun to make those the past few years. We're not doing one this year. This is my first official video saying that we will not be doing a Thanksgiving song this year.
Just lay down.
But yeah, we will not be doing one this year. I did make an announcement on Twitter, but unfortunately, yeah, just due to poor planning on my part, I couldn't get the lyrics done beforehand, and we should have been recording it throughout October at the very least, and we hardly had the time to do that because we were doing the Halloween song, which Nerdy Mash. I think it was really well done. Speaking of,
Yeah.
let's check out.
Silence, it never felt so terrible.
Oh, that's fun. So currently, Nerdy Mash is the top of my
Now when I hear them
my most popular songs.
scream, yell,
which honestly that doesn't surprise me. And then literally everything else is the Thanksgiving songs,
Yeah.
which yeah, no one is surprised by that at all. As for the rest of the top 10, number 6 is Grinding, which was a song that me, Backwater J, and Quixote made, which was basically just a Final Fantasy song, basically just trying to, as we were doing a grinding episode for our videos, for our video about going through Final Fantasy VII, we did Grinding, which was a fun song. Not to toot my own horn. Then we have 2 of the Christmas songs, which is Christmas with the Nerds and 25 Days of Nerdy Christmas, which I think is absolutely hilarious that pretty much all of the rest of the songs are somewhere around the average length of normal songs. 3 minutes, 1 minute, somewhere around there. Somewhere between those 2 times. And then there's 25 Days of Nerdy Christmas at number 8, which is 10 minutes, 33 seconds long.
Good God.
Yeah, it's insane. Which I'm not even surprised by that, because it was a long series. Basically, in 2018, what we did is me and Punisher Matt did video every day throughout the December, with the 25 Days of Nerdy Christmas, and it was to the tune of 12 Days of Christmas, except it's 25 days instead of 12, and it was insane. At some point, you've listened to it, I think, right? Or maybe not.
Your imagination.
But yeah, that was insane.
To keep us safe.
And then after that, it's
Just promise.
Kodakian Fighting,
Keeping us
which
all
is
safe.
hilarious. That's a parody of Kung Fu Fighting, obviously.
No going
Mhm.
And we did and it was an action that was like fully parodying it. Like me and Backwater J did that. I think it's funny because
Good night, sweet.
the person who wrote it was Benjamin Fleeman, who was a part of Can, but then he left. That's a complicated thing. We're not going to get into that. But me and Jay did the recording, and it was fun. And then number 10 is Fly with Dragons, which I would have expected that to be a lot higher, to be honest.
In the house or under the
But
dresser?
yeah, it's fun. I understand why Nerdy Mash is currently the highest. It's probably because it's been listened to a whole bunch, thanks to it being Thanksgiving or not Thanksgiving, Halloween right now.
Would you fetch it?
And then I'm assuming that throughout November the Thanksgiving songs are gonna elevate, and then around Christmas all of the Christmas songs are gonna go up.
Here you go.
Even though like very few people listen to them, but I'm gonna be sharing them on Twitter and Instagram and all those things. Probably also YouTube, because now I can actually do posts, which is funny.
don't see it.
Must be under some clothes.
That's weird. I just had an issue.
Okay.
That's not good. And my computer had an issue.
Guys, I said no games. Open up. Open the door.
One sec. All right, so we're back. There appears to have been some issue. I don't know if it's actually still recording. I turned off my camera, but there's, for whatever reason, it's still showing on the recording. That's whatever. Sorry about that. If you guys are just seeing my face, looking, basically just having my finger to my nose. For the rest of this video, I hope it stops. But yeah, there was some issue on the on this side. Do we want to do it for the rest of this video? Just tell some ghost stories and stuff.
I don't know that I have that many ghost stories.
Really? Okay. Um. So what? Have I told you any of my ghost stories at all?
I don't think so.
Okay. So, firstly, my the place I work is haunted. So I'll just go over those really quickly. So yeah, for those of you who are unaware, there is a world market that is haunted, and that is the place where I work. Um, and basically we have two ghosts. The first, the one that we found out about was this ghost that we have come to call Steve, and he is a giant goose ghost that basically just sits in the middle of the store and just stares at things, causing them to go haywire. Basically, anytime that technology is having issues in the store, it's probably him, which I think is really funny, because he's right. I didn't really think about this too much, but he appeared around the same time that our scanner out on the floor started having issues, and it hasn't worked since. And he's actually like right there, so it actually so that might be why we have why our scanner out on the floor just does not work. And and that's specifically for customers to use if they want to check prices or whatever.
Yeah.
And just for whatever reason, doesn't work anymore. And it was right around that time that started having issues. As for our everything else, like we've been having issues with our systems for since before I got there. But things really went into overdrive around the time that he started showing up, and it was just like, what the heck is happening? Just all of our technology was constantly having issues. Things have been slowly getting better, but that's mostly because we've been getting newer technology. Before we had like really old things, like our registers are ancient; they're older than us. So yeah, I think like the majority of the team is older, or is younger, sorry, than the actual registers.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Like obviously there are people who are clear that are older than it. Like I think the oldest of our managers is older than them. I think I could be wrong. And then we have like a few other people that are clearly older than it.
Yeah.
But they are really freaking old, and it's just like, what the frell? Why are these constantly having issues? And yeah, and then as for other we've had some other technological issues, but yeah, pretty much all of that is Steve. And then we have another ghost, which is completely friendly. She just wanders the store, and we've come to know her as Allie. Very little to talk about her. She's just wandering the store. She doesn't do anything. So yeah, that's pretty much it. But she's like she's a little girl that just wanders, and then she just like starts following you, and that's it. Like if you
We had a ghost in the house I lived in before this apartment.
okay,
His name was Lester,
okay,
and he was the ghost of the landlord's husband who had died on the property.
oh fun.
Yeah, he had died in the shower, the only shower in the house. And he really basically was just one of those basic boomer dads. And we could only tell that because all he didn't really do anything except turn off lights and shut doors. That's it.
Oh, that's funny. That is funny.
And you could almost hear the turn the damn lights off. Electricity doesn't grow on trees, you know. It was so funny.
Oh, that is funny. That is really funny.
But that's all he would do. He'd just shut the bathroom door and turn the light off.
Okay, that's funny. That is really funny. Yeah, and then
You want to know the first ghost story that ever spooked the shit out of me?
sure.
Okay, I'll tell you. So, let me look it up and see if I can get all the details right.
This isn't
It's
the
called
sleep
Bandage.
experiment, is it?
No, Bandage Man.
Oh, okay. Um. Uh, I'm not gonna tell the sleep experiment story.
Yeah, please.
That thing's fucking terrifying. But Fergie told us that during drama in drama class around Halloween, and it was just like, what the fuck? Why are you telling this to teenagers?
All right, here's some. It says Oregon, Cannon Beach, spooky stories, head scratchers, and tall tales. But here's Bandage Man. Bandage Man first made an appearance in the 1950s. He is said to be a mummy of a logger who was hacked up in a sawmill accident. So the story I heard was that it was a hunting accident, and that they had called the ambulance, and the ambulance came, got him, and he disappeared out the back of the ambulance and was wrapped in bandages, and then he just lives in the woods. He is wrapped completely in bloody bandages and smells like rotting flesh. He is said to haunt the stretch of Highway 101. I have also heard that he was an injured fireman, electrician, and more. What stays consistent in the story is that he is covered in bandages. Like most folklore, Bandage Man mostly targets teens in parked cars. However, he also likes to target moving vehicles, such as open-topped cars or pickup trucks. He will jump onto or into the back of the vehicle and then mysteriously vanish before reaching town. Most people do not become aware of his presence unless they turn around or his rotting stench reaches their nose. And then when they turn around, he's gone. The Bandage Man feeds on small dogs and animals, as well as the occasional unlucky person.
That's terrifying. I think isn't that in I think that might also be in it might be referenced in one of the episodes of Supernatural, like one of the early ones.
It might be.
But to be fair,
yeah,
they reference a lot of American folklore in that.
But yeah, so basically that was the first ghost story, because I read it on Highway 101 where my parents live.
Fun.
And like my parents live where Bandage Man supposedly haunts, and so I was like, "What the crap?" and freaked out.
What the? That's terrifying.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, so this was so. I don't think I might have told you this story. I haven't told too many people this story, but when I was in my senior year, I think, this was close to Halloween. It wasn't Halloween itself, but it was around that time. Before we had our we did the spooky stories, at my in Fergie's. So, basically, I was just in my class. I don't remember which one it was. And I look across the hall for whatever reason, and I just get this sense that something's not right. And then the story pops into my head, where basically years ago, no one knows exactly when, there was a party at the school where the students were doing not so great things. Obviously, drugs, sex, that sort of thing. And then, for whatever reason, some guy comes to the school and murders everyone, and then stuffs their bodies into the lockers, and their blood basically floods the halls.
Oof.
Yeah. That's the simplified version. I think I've told it much longer before, but it was actually giving details on the different parts of it. But it was really weird because it was I was kind of like I knew that the Halloween thing was coming up, and I was kind of like wondering, is there a story that I could tell for that thing? And then yeah, I suddenly just felt a presence across the hall, and that story popped into my head. I don't know why. And keep in mind, this was senior year of high school. I was still a pretty, I was still nowhere near as vulgar as I am today. But it was, for me, especially around that time, it was just not something that I would seek out. So that was what it was really, that's one of the reasons why it kind of freaks me out sometimes. Why did that story just pop into my head? So, I don't know if, I don't think it's real, but at the same time, it would be, like, really terrifying if it was. Because this would have been, like, possibly before, Borda, even. So.
Miss Borda passed away?
No, before she was, a teacher, I think. It would have happened. So, I don't even know, because it was... I don't know. It's weird, to say the least. But yeah, things are weird. I don't know. Yeah, obviously we're not gonna like go over like too many other stories. There was one story that Fergie also told me about our school, that there was like this guy who wandered outside and basically wore like a green, basically he looked like Robin Hood, but he was like slightly different. I don't know. I don't remember the story at all, but it was interesting. And then obviously there were some interesting stories that were told there. Most of them are freaky as fuck. Like, obviously the sleep experiment. If you have a strong stomach, look it up. Otherwise, do not. We are not going to be responsible for anyone looking that monstrous, terrible story up.
Yeah, nope.
Because yeah, that thing is that is very, very bad. I think it's Russian sleep experiment. I think. So if you look at that's what it is. If you decide that you want to look it up, it's terrifying. Really don't. I still do not understand why Fergie told us that story. I don't know. That was weird. And that was during my junior year, which meant that all of the pretty much anyone who was doing drama at the time, that was the class that they were taking. That was the one and only time that they could take it. So everyone was in there when this story was told, and it's just like, what the fuck? Why did you tell us this? I don't know.
I think this is a good place to call it.
Yeah, I think so too. Like obviously, we could probably go about talking about Halloween for like a good while longer, and honestly, I'm excited to celebrate Halloween, and then next week we will be doing Thanksgiving probably. We'll start talking about Thanksgiving for the nerd chats. Look forward to all of that. We will probably be sharing those songs. If you haven't yet listened to Nerd Chat, or not Nerd Chat, Nerdy Mash, that is over on that is on Spotify or wherever else you listen to your music, and have fun. It is a parody of Monster Mash, and it's just a lot of fun. So go check it out. Anyways, guys, I've been Electro Ninja.
And I'm Jack.
And we will see you guys next time. But on.